Welcome, beautiful souls, to the Beyond the Belief podcast. I'm your host, Lavender Loveway. With each episode, I invite you personally to join me as we explore a belief. It might be a widely held idea, or a forgotten truth, or perhaps even one that feels unknown or deeply contested. This is a sanctuary for exploration, a place to absorb, listen, and learn with an open heart. We're shedding the heaviness of right and wrong and ascending into the lightness of greater connection and expansive knowledge. Today's episode is no exception. This is another precious opportunity to find a little gem or two of wisdom that helps you reweave your own tapestry of truth. Hello, my dear friends. I'm so excited that you're here with me for another episode of Beyond the Belief. And today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics and subjects, I'll humbly admit, all about our guides, our spiritual guides. And I've also got a little special message at the end of this episode. I actually have a very special channeled message, and I'll kind of get into that in just a little bit. But it is from my heart to yours, and I am so excited about it. So it all has context. It's so beautiful how things are so much like synchronicity in life, in our life experience, if we just open our eyes. It's incredible. So I digress, but part of the fun of our life experiences is embracing and getting to know our guides. So I want to talk all about our guides today. I want to talk about who are they. I want to talk about how they communicate, ways we can sense them and communicate with them, and at a minimum, receive messages from them. And then also I want to talk about some quick tips and some tie-ins to human design, which is one of my favorite things, and maybe some kind of guidance right there to dive in, to get to know yourself better, to learn how you might be able to be more receptive and open to them. And then we will talk about ways of being more receptive. So how can I, if I want to improve my relationship with my guides, how can I do that? And what do I need to do, or what are kind of the must do's in order to open those doors? And then I'll kind of chat through what happens when they can't get through. And this is something that I had learned through my QHHT practice. So for those of you who might or might not be familiar, QHHT was developed by the late Dolores Cannon, who, my goodness, quite a lady. I admire her insatiable curiosity and her ability to ask questions and kind of explore the unknown, which is always interesting. I think the inner adventurer in us are the ones who are like, yeah, let's do it. And then the lovely fear of the humanness is like, I don't know about that. So she surpassed all of that and did some pretty incredible things. But her technique, so her QHHT technique, so it is the quantum healing hypnosis technique. I am a certified practitioner, which I'm very honored. You'll have no idea. I feel like a little kid in a candy store, but I also feel like incredibly humbled that I even get to get close to this. So the interesting, beautiful thing is, as we learn and dabble in things, we also get to kind of learn some parallels and things that, this might be related. And what I learned very deeply is how our guides, when they cannot get through, how they communicate with us, and it's through our bodies. So I've got some really interesting little tidbits and morsels of information, as well as some specific experience about me. So I'll kind of interlace that through this episode and talk about my journey through each one of these. So I have been here and done that and still continue to walk this path. And I think that's part of I think that's part of our life journey. We continue to ebb and flow and evolve, and that's okay. That's the beautiful part about life. And sometimes it can be draining. I'll just say it like that. Some days you're like, oh, good night. Oh, my Lanta. But then some days you're like, right? I'm feeling this. So how can we lean more into that, into that genre? So I digress. But let's kick things off by first talking about who are our guides. And I use this term very often. You'll see it kind of interlaced throughout my Substack. So if you ever see me post notes or letters, as I call them, or basically blog posts, I talk and speak to my guides. And so our guides are, and for me, I'll just say this personally, I call mine, and I've named mine. Mine are called my triple S, my soul support squad. And this is my affectionate name for all of them. Even though I will say this, they don't always stay the same. And let's kind of unpack who could be part of this. But if you want to end up naming yours, I would highly encourage you to do so. I feel like they have such a beautiful energy of like joy and fun and play. And I think that's kind of, like when we affectionately love someone, we give them a nickname. We're like, you need this nickname. And so it proves to be such a beautiful way to really connect with them. So I would highly encourage you to pick one out. So our guides can be I refer to them as kind of a group, the squad, right? So they can include your guardian angel, or for those of us that might have more than one assigned angel, or I have heard that others can have multiple guardian angels. All of them included, right? Our guardian squad, other angels or other light beings. So they can be family members who have gone to the other side and are over there behind the veil assisting you. They can be those that you have, maybe spirits you've known in past lifetimes. Those who have committed to be here with you for this incarnation. They could be past spirits who have gone through past incarnations with you, but as part of, let's say, the giant, awesome task, project, goal, learning lesson, insert thing here, whatever it may be, they're here to actually assist you in that. And they're excited about it. Let me say, all of them. I know this to be true. Our guides are infectiously excited and honored and are so full of love. Like, oh, they're so full of love. Who else? They could also be appointed guides or light beings. So maybe from your existing, so if I talk about myself, my existing soul support squad, they might realize, hey, I really need support in, XYZ, maybe communication or connecting things together to, land this, I don't know, this talk. They're going to help partner with me and basically find that and connect the beings together who might need to essentially assist me is really kind of right, boiling it all down. But these guides can then assign or find other light beings who would be helpful. So this means that you could have some, a being part of your soul support squad that might only be there with you for a small duration, or they might be there with you for the rest of your incarnation. They might be with you somewhere in between there. So I use this as an all-encompassing term because unless you truly get to know each one of them, which you absolutely can, and I would absolutely recommend to do so. And I'll share with y'all a little bit about my soul support squad. So the first member of my soul support squad that I got in touch with is Naomi. I'll say this affectionately. So there is a lovely lady named Sonia Choquette who has a guide as well as an oracle deck that is amazing called Ask Your Guides. And she talks about who different guides could be. So we've got obviously your guardian angel, your Archies, as she calls them, or archangels, Then there are the helpers, the healers, the teachers. And she kind of unpacks each of these. I have read her book, would highly encourage it. It's a great read, but she also has such a precious, joyful energy about her. Or check her out on YouTube. She's got some great videos. But she kind of unpacks maybe some of the specifics and who to ask for help. Because I think that's where we as humans get kind of tripped up. We're like, okay, I need help, I think. I don't know. Well, what do I ask for? What can I ask for? And I'll say this right now. You can ask for anything. And I know that sounds very massive, but it's very true. And so she kind of helps break down some of the relationships and let's say some of the domains of experience or expertise. So that might help you kind of visualize who they are. But back to Naomi. So Naomi, well, and I'll say this really quick too. So Sonia also teaches that most guides, unless you've known them in the past incarnation, past life, or they have associated themselves with, let's say, their ex-human name, or they have something they just like to be called, most don't really care. And they don't really have a name. So what this means is that you can actually name them. And so for Naomi, I asked because I could definitely feel Naomi's energy. And then Naomi gave me some indicators with twitching, the energy basically coming through into my feet or into my hands. So I asked Naomi, do you have a name that I can call you? And I'm going to just say they as far as pronoun because they are everything, right? They are all. But Naomi said, no, I don't have a name preference. You can call me whatever you'd like. But there is a clue. This name you've known for a long time and even back to childhood. And I was able to connect it to, it's a long story, but connected to things as a child and that name. And when I said it, I could feel this like resonance. And so Naomi became their name. And Naomi is from the 11th dimension. And at the time when I first connected with Naomi, I believe this was in October of 2024, I was like, holy cow, what? Like 1111? Like, what? And as things are now developing, and I can see this in hindsight, this is why I think it's really important for us as we're documenting and journeying through getting to know our guides, that it makes so much sense why now. And I'll kind of share a little bit about this towards the end of this episode because it has to do with the channeled message that basically is at the end of this episode. And kind of is like that cherry on the sundae for it. So I'll leave the magic till then. But as you start to unpack things, like imagine here, I'm hearing 11th dimension going, what? Like there's an 11th dimension officially? Like, wait, what? And then hearing it, it's kind of unreal. But now if I can look back, it makes sense. And so we often, I will say this just as a blanket statement, as you're getting to know your guides, as you're navigating your relationship, as you're understanding who is there, don't allow your conscious mind, the one that is the left-brained, articulator, interrogator, who genuinely is trying to help, trying to be protective, but can often get in between to where you're, funny enough, and I guess I'll just share this now. The first like inkling or the first urge or the first thought that you have, like if somebody asks a question and you're like, oh, I feel this, that is actually your right brain. It's when we start getting into left brain world that it's like, well, why do I think that? Okay, that came out of nowhere. That was random. That means that that's not right. There's suddenly like all these rules. So just know that as you're exploring, talking with your guides, listening for your guides, speaking to them and with them, know that you'll probably hear or feel something that you're like, nah, that can't be. Like it can't, but really? Nah, it can't be. And what I would encourage you to do is just write it all down. Just don't think about it. Don't process it and like overanalyze it because then you're getting into your mind And where you need to be is in your heart. When you're connecting with your guides, and I learned this actually from one of my recent QHHT sessions for myself. So my fellow practitioners helped me and did a session for me. And I learned that when we're talking about being telepathic and receiving telepathic messages or sending telepathic messages, they're not sent with our brains or our minds. They're sent with our hearts, our heart center, our heart energy center, or our heart chakra. And knowing that now, right? So this has come out recently, recent discovery. You're not leveraging your mind, you're leveraging your heart. So if anything, if you feel anything, if you sense anything, and we'll kind of go through your senses here in just one moment, just write it down. Don't overthink it. Just allow it to be. And the way I did it, honestly, and this is kind of how I've lived a lot of my life, is this insatiable curiosity of when I discover something, I'm like, curious. Even if my brain or my mind is like, ew, like, no, that's not it. I literally am like, you know what? I'm just going to write it down. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to write it down. I'm going to keep it on a nice little list. I'm just going to write down all those crazy thoughts that I receive and let's see what happens. And I will tell you that is actually what opened the door for me. Because once you start writing down all the crazy thoughts or the things that come way too easy and you're like, this can't be this easy, you suddenly realize and see that the picture that illuminates between all of those things that you wrote down. So it won't happen on the first message or the second message. I mean, by the third one, you might notice a trend, or you might not. It might be 3 random thoughts. But as you continue to do so, you start to see like, wow, look at this. This is so cool. I'm seeing this picture start to illuminate, and then you can kind of further dive in and discover. So be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. So your guides essentially, right? So that kind of, I summed up kind of who could be included. You could have a small squad. You could have a giant squad. You can have a smaller squad for, the time being right now in this beautiful moment of now. But later on, when you're tackling some other things, you've got more guides that kind of sign on. So it does ebb and flow. And this is part of thinking about the beautiful image of you. And then if you could see all the beings around you, you're constantly surrounded by love. And you're constantly surrounded by these light beings who want to assist you and care for you. And I'll talk about kind of their intentions now. Why do we have these guides? Why are all these beings hanging out with us? First of all, we are never, ever, ever, ever alone. And I know as a human, we can often, I can't even count the amount of times I've felt alone. You're never alone. You are, for good or for better, for worse, you're surrounded at all times, which is such a beautiful thing. It is such a beautiful thing. But they have your highest good in mind at all times. They have a perspective that we often haven't unless we've taken the steps to connect with it. But they can see just the overall, let's say the soul contract. And soul contract, what I'm referring to, because I know some of the terminology can be different, but essentially we choose our incarnation. And I know that this sometimes can be a painful topic to even those that I'm close with in my life experience. But if we just stand back for 2 seconds and we look at what or why we chose our incarnation, there is a grander picture. And the most immediate thing that you might see of like, well, why would I want pain for my life? Well, you might be choosing the counter to what you're here for, but that's part of the exploration, or that's part of the remembering, or that's part of the learning. So just because you might be experiencing something right now does not mean that that's the direct reason. I'll just say it like that. Okay. But for the most part, just, kind of bear with me as I work through this. But they know our soul contract. So basically our intention, our goals, what we really seek to learn or experience in this incarnation. So they know it. We don't know it. We come into this incarnation forgetting everything. And only when we attempt to reconnect with it can we get pretty darn close, if not right on? Yes, we can. This is part of the beautiful ways we can connect with our guides. And this is why I'm doing this as, as an episode, because it's so important for us to have that connection and understanding, because they can help open those doors for us. They can open our horizons. And they are motivated and dedicated to helping you get there, wherever there is. So whatever that goal is, or the achievement, or the learning experience, or, the goal basically of this incarnation, that is what they're dedicated to helping you get there. They are helping keep you on track, as well as helping those things that you need to accomplish to get there. They're working things in the background. They're connecting people together. They're connecting resources together. When we experience a miracle, we're like, I don't even know how this happened. That was probably our guides. Like, hey, and they work with other guides. So this is a beautiful thing too. When we start as humans working with other humans, our souls basically and their soul support squads are working together. So there could be things that are coordinated that we don't even have visibility to, but they know that we want it, and they know that this is our, again, our soul contract, why we're here. And so they are ready, willing, and able right here with us. They are also here to love on you, which I know might sound wild. You're like, what? They are here to love you and to support you, to guide you. And this is why I really like the word guides, because a guide is not someone who's forcing you. A guide is someone who might be all-knowing or have a gorgeous access to information, or knowledge, or wisdom, or experience. And they're willing to help leverage that for you. So they're guiding you to wherever you want to go. And I will say this out loud, that the one baseline, and we'll kind of unpack this here in a moment, is the law of free will. We are, here on earth, that is the basis of this existence, is that the law of free will exists, which means that they cannot tell you what to do. And they shouldn't. That's not their role. Their role is to guide you based on what you're inquiring or asking for. So please keep in mind, and that's something that many don't know, but it's all based on what you ask for, but you have to ask for it. So we'll talk about that here in a second. But last thing about guides and what they're doing, their intentions, they're here to provide divine guidance based on your highest good, or based on that soul contract objective, or based on what would make you so happy and bring so much love and joy to others. That is what their intention, their primary intention is, and to love the heck out of you. So I don't know about y'all, but for me, they have become a central force, really. And they are absolutely my guiding light as I continue. And this is kind of the beautiful thing for me. I can continue to flower and blossom and bloom because I'm being cared for. Because we're not supposed to do all of this by ourselves. That's not the way this works. We're really not. We try to for a multitude of reasons, but we're not supposed to. We are supposed to have help. And that is where our guides come in. Now, I didn't necessarily want to touch on this, but I'm going to, because I think that it's truly, as I talk about my guides, even with those people that are in my life experience, this question comes up so often, and I just want to address it. It is, how do I know that there's not bad guides or bad beings, or I'm getting bad advice, or I'm being guided into a ditch or into driving my, car into a lake? Like, how do I know that there's not bad beings or bad guides? And I want to say this, there's a couple of kind of safety nets, and specifically with Sonia Choquette, she talks about these at quite good length. So if you'd like to kind of discover this, I will definitely forward you into her direction, because she has a ton of knowledge around this, but also has a ton of scope and kind of scale and beautiful word tracks to use. But essentially, and I'll just kind of paraphrase from what I've learned from her, as well as quite a few other individuals. First of all, you only want to invite in, and you can say it out loud, I invite in those who are of basically the highest good and encompass or embody the most light possible. That is who I want to connect with. Those are the beings that I invite into this experience with me. There are laws of the universe that basically, and I boil it down to, again, I'm going to take this real grotesquely simple, but there's no lying. You can't lie. And, you, let's say in this case, are inviting in the highest good and highest light possible. And then someone, let's say, who does not, a being that does not have the highest light possible, then comes in to speak with you. And they can, I'm going to be behind the scenes. You'll never know. That is not how it works. It does not operate like it does on Earth. So I'll just say that as bluntly as I can. So what this means is, first of all, if you ever feel wonky, if you are like, I don't know, this feels weird, I'm getting a sense, what you can do is you can invite them to go back to the light. You know what? I do not choose to have or host this conversation any longer, and I invite you to go back to the light. If you say that, that is a command and they must do. Again, it does not operate, the laws, the rules, the guidelines, they don't operate like they do here on Earth. Now, a being, could encompass, let's say, a lower level of light, but they are often looking to, well, I'll share what Dolores Cannon shares because there's something about this that resonates so deeply with me. She stated that there are beings that, let's say, are not as evolved and do not embody as much light, that they have some lessons, let's say, to learn or some things to remember. And what they try to do is they try to hang out with humans, currently incarnated humans that are doing the things that they like to do. So, for example, if you're going to get super wasted and they love to be wasted, they're going to be in your presence because they're almost trying to experience it like it's through osmosis, meaning that they're just going to try to live vicariously through you. They're going to try to see you and experience it with you. They can't experience it, but that's the closest they can get until they incarnate again. And so they kind of hang out near you because you are emitting that energy level. So if you, and to me, this means that you're also inviting it in. You're making a choice. You have the choice. And obviously we'll use this example as the example, but you have the choice to drink or not drink, or not even drink, maybe binge drink and not drink. You have that choice. So as you continue to make choices, then that can invite different beings to hang out who basically do the same thing, but they're not going to hang out with you if it's not of a similar vibrational resonance. So it's not like suddenly you're just going to have, as we say on Earth, oh, the devil's here. No, the devil doesn't exist, first of all. But second of all, no, not going to hang out with you if your vibrational level is at a certain frequency and theirs is different. Now, I will say this out loud. There is no such thing as involuntary possession. Involuntary possession. So what does this mean? You can't just become possessed by a light being, a lower light being, just because that's just the way it is. No, you actually have to invite them in. So if you are actively inviting in that energy, then it can reside with you. But just the same that you make the choice to allow that, you can also disallow that. So you can say, I do not choose to have this, engagement, this conversation, this connection with you any longer. I invite you to go back to the light. And that will basically allow them or free them or kind of in some ways push them. And I'm getting a tone on my left ear right now as I say this. So I know this to be true, that there's no such thing as involuntary possession. You can't just voluntarily oh yeah, I just got possessed yesterday. No, that's not how it works. It is based on, think about it from a concept of consent. You have to give consent. It's not just, oh yeah, come on in. Everybody, party over here. Nope, not unless you want it. So to kind of wrap this up with a nice little bow. So what I want to say when it comes to, quote, quote, bad energy or what have you, the key to it is this: believe and you will receive. So if you believe someone is going to do you wrong. So this light being is going to come in and do you wrong and do these things and blah, blah, blah. Guess what? It will be so. Or if you believe that you're going to connect with the, highest light beings possible, that they are serving your highest good, they love you and they're there for you and they're guiding you, so be it. That's what you will receive. So what you believe, you will receive. And our belief, our faith is so mission critical. I mean, I cannot even say it enough. Mission critical. It is the superpower. It is the gateway. It is the thing that empowers all. So if you believe it in your heart, you host it there in your heart space, in your energetic heart center, that is what you attract. So if you hold the positivity and the light and the love, that is what you will attract, my friends. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. Now let's talk about how our guides communicate. This is really important because I have had this conversation a couple of times with those close in my network. How the heck do I hear them or feel them? Or because they're not going to sit down in front of you to have coffee with you. I mean, they might, but you might not see them necessarily unless you tune in. So let's talk about how to tune in. So we tune in through our senses. And funny enough, we use our senses in our waking earth, incarnation. We hear things, our five senses, right? We smell, we taste, we touch, we hear, we see. All those lovely things. But it's kind of like learning the nuances. So I'm sure you can probably relate to this. You have some friends you can just be totally open with and you can just say whatever you want. And then other friends, you got to be really careful with how you say things, or you have some that are very sensitive about certain topics, so you don't talk to them about that. Or you know that your other friend is super very exceptional listener, so you know that you can just let out your thoughts before, let's say articulating the argument. So there's kind of the little nuances that make them unique and special. It is the same with our guides. So how they're going to communicate through you, with you, into basically your body. Your body is such a receptive device. It's a vehicle. It's the things that can receive things, perceive things. So through your senses, let's say as an example, I'm going to talk about how I experience my guides. So first of all, in my thoughts. So this often is trusting the very first thing you think or the very first thing that appears in your mind. And I'll talk about the specifics here in one moment, but it's like the drop in where you're like, whoa, oh, interesting. Wait, so I should buy that thing? Would that help me? And you're like, where the heck did that thought come from? I wasn't even thinking about it. And suddenly it just pops in my mind. Or suddenly you just have a vision or you see it, or you get the sense that, you hear something on the TV or someone says something to you and you're like, oh my gosh, yes. Okay, but why do I think yes? Where the heck did that come from? Okay, this could be communications from your guides. As I call them, intuitive taps or intuitive hits. I'm sure you've heard that term maybe before, but your intuition, so your inner knowing, it's kind of like you feel it. You're like, I don't know why I know this, but I just know. That could be absolutely something dropping in from your guides. Absolutely. Obviously, your inner knowing. So anything that you feel, you just know. And that means that you might not have facts. It might not be about something you see in your physical reality, but you're like, I know this is true. So that's your inner knowing. It could be something physical, like some experience sparks of light, or like an orb, or something moves. A book falls off a shelf, and you pick it up, and you're like, oh man, I bought this book like a gajillion years ago. Oh yeah, I forgot about this book, right? So it could be physical things that suddenly just do something. I'm thinking about one of my favorite movies, Interstellar, and the communication through the bookcase and the different notes, or basically the Morse code, the letters. So these things can happen. And again, remember, this all goes back to what you believe you will receive. So if you believe that it's possible, you don't have to know. And I always say this, your guides and the universe really operates in a sense of you need to define what, you don't need to worry about how. So you need to be clear about the what. What is it that you want? I want this house, or I want this opportunity, or I want these, friends, or I want to feel this way, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the how to get there, you might be like, oh man, I can't afford that house. What the heck? Like, why am I saying that? Eh. Let me be the first person to say, no, no, you don't have to worry about how. They take care of that. Your guides are incredible at the how. They're like, oh, Lavender wants a house. Okay, how do we get this done? What do we need to do? Who do we need to move things around to? Who else do we know? I mean, think about it. It's like having a true, it's like an executive team, really. That's how I relate to it. In a company where you have all these officiating people, but then you have their squads behind them, right? Of those that are running around, doing the things, getting the things connected. They are making it happen for you. So know that these sparks of light, these things that happen, believe it and you will receive it. That's the key. If you don't believe, if you're like, that's too woo-woo, that's weird. Well, okay, that's what you will receive. You will receive lots of woo-woo weird. Nada. Nada para ti. Okay. So, in a sense, just work with it. Just, hey, let me try believing in it. And I just say this, just try it out, see what happens. If it doesn't turn out the way you want to, that's okay. You at least experimented and tried. But at this point, believe it and you will receive it. So, and then last, but certainly not least, these are just some ideas based on my experience, is automatic writing. So often also referred to as kind of stream of consciousness to kind of open the flow and then get into the flow, right, of communication. But essentially you are writing the first things that are coming to your mind. And as you continue to do so, you'll start to notice that you actually connect and communicate with your guides. Again, it's believing and receiving. So if you believe that you can connect with them that way, you will. It might take some practice because, of course, you're going to be like, this is weird. I am writing. This is weird. This is weird. This is weird. Until you can kind of get into and past yourself, but that is another place that is awesome. And it might be it was my first vehicle to speaking with my guides, really, truly, like in a literal way. I was definitely hearing them and listening to them. And I'll talk about here how you can sense them. But automatic writing is a great vehicle to hop into and to connect. The other way I want to mention is through things that happen in our experience. So often one of the largest can be through dreams, or it can be through life events that are happening, others that speak to us. I actually had this example. I just went on a trip to Portland, and as I was coming back, I go up to check in my bag, and it's so wild, even just thinking about it. And I go up to the counter, right? So I do all my stuff. I get my little ticket for my bag. I just got to turn it in. And I go up to the top, the front of the line basically, and I'm waiting for someone at the counter to call me up. And I look up at there and I see this lady who's helping a gentleman, and I'm just kind of waiting. And then suddenly this lady flies out of nowhere and she's like, "Hi, I can help you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I walk up to the counter and she's got this big smile and she's like, "Oh, okay. It looks like you're just, turning in your checked bag." And I'm like, "Yep." She's like, "Okay, great. All I need to see is your ID." So I show her my ID and she looks at my name. She's like, "Oh my gosh, your name. It just rolls right off the tongue." And then she's like, "It sounds like an author's name." And as I was just hopping in to say, like, I'm finishing a couple books and then I've already published a book, so I guess I am a published author, she suddenly just looks at me, gives me this beautiful smile, and she says, "You are destined for greatness." And I'm looking at her like, holy cow, what did you just say? Like, wait a second, did you just, like, what do I say to that? And then suddenly she just kind of, it's like weird. She like snaps to, right? She like comes out of it. She's like, I'm sorry. I felt like I just had to say that. Wow. I never say anything like that. And I was like, thank you so much for trusting that thought that popped into your mind. And this was coming fresh off my QHHT session. I learned for the first time that I have these gorgeous connections in my past incarnations with divine wisdom, and being an oracle. And I'll talk about that here in a second. It's just magic. And here comes this message through this lady. So through our experiences, whether they're in our waking life, like in this example with this lovely lady, or it's in our resting, sleeping life, through the dreams we dream, or how we feel when we wake up, or maybe in the middle of the night when we suddenly wake up and we have thoughts, or we look at the clock and it's a certain time. It's our beautiful divine time of 1:11 or 2:22. Those are my favorite times to wake up. What we have and what we embody, what we hold or host within our mind or our body, can be communication vehicles. So I also want to just illuminate this, that this might be part of the ways that your guides are speaking to you. And again, as I'll continue to say throughout this episode, it is so important that you write things down. So when these things happen, like I'm able to tell you about the lady at the airline counter because I wrote it down. The minute I left the counter, I popped my phone out, added a note, right, and wrote it all out, what happened, because I want to be able to go back to that and reflect. And it means so much to be able to do that. It becomes part of your daily trajectory and what you're experiencing. And as you start to document these things, you start to notice parallels. You'll notice words are similar, or how someone treated you is similar, or the things that you are picking up on are similar, and they connect to other things. And soon you realize how beautiful your life experience can be. The synchronicities are unreal. Again, what we believe, we receive. So in that, I just want to communicate that there are other ways also that your guides are communicating messages to you, or that they can leverage those things together with things they might be dropping into your mind or that you might be experiencing through writing. And this way, you literally are able to kind of see the bigger picture. So anything that happens really to you can be a vehicle for communication if you allow it. And then just before we talk about how to sense them, common ways that your guides attempt to reach out to you. I mentioned already dropping a thought into your mind. Suddenly you have an idea. Suddenly you make a connection. I call these my CTM notes, as in came to me. And they are the things that come to me. And I even describe it with Ark. If I'm sharing something with him of like, hey, this is, this came to me. I'm not sure about this, but this is how I feel, or this is what I see. So trust those things that are coming to you, that are just dropping into your mind, dropping into your heart. And then also something you could feel deeply drawn to, or something you suddenly really want to do, but you can't necessarily reason it. So what I mean by this is, it's not like you've gone through a 47-step question process and you've determined that you really want to do this because you've already looked at all options. Okay, no, that is your left brain. Hello, left. This is more of, you know it. You don't know how you know it or why you know it, but you just feel it. You sense it. You feel it. It feels connective. It feels strong. Again, you're not sure why, but you feel it. So that's something, what I call, that's the truth resonating within you. That there is vibrational alignment. And how I see it is that, imagine in your heart center, you have a frequency, a vibration. And then the idea or the thought or the thing, whatever it is, has a certain vibration. And so when you're in its existence in your mind, right? You thought it dropped in your mind, you heard it, you saw it, whatever it is. If you feel connected to it, there is vibrational resonance. That is the truth within you. That's your inner knowing. So it's kind of like connective in that way. Trust that. Trust that, my friends. It's kind of wonky at first, but I feel like that's the secret. So let's talk about how you can sense them. And I'm going to talk about kind of the most common. I think a lot of people have heard of like someone who is clairaudient or clairvoyant. So I'm going to talk about these. So there's clairaudience or being clairaudient, where you can hear. So this is inner hearing. Voices, sounds, messages. It's like something just drops into your mind, but you hear it. It's like somebody said it, but nobody said it out loud. That is being clairaudient. If you're clairvoyant, you can see. So maybe you see mental images, visions. It's kind of like an intuitive knowing beyond normal sight. So it's something that you might not actually physically see in front of you, but you can see it. That would be being clairvoyant. Clairalient. This is a big one for me. I actually learned this about myself. You can smell. So smelling scents that aren't physically present. And this, I'll share this just really small story. It's very interesting. So Ark, there was something in what he was dealing with that he was getting stuck. And I kept noticing, and I was driving myself nuts because I kept noticing, I was like, wow, the house smells so dusty. It smells dusty in here. I was like, have I not dusted in a while? And I'm like randomly dusting, vacuuming, trying to find the dust. Right? I'm like, where the heck is this freaking dust? And then when he would come in the room, it would get stronger. And so at one point I asked him, I was like, is it just me or do you smell dust? And he's like, no, what? He's like, well, there is dust in here, right? So then we were like cleaning and whatever, and I just cannot get rid of this dusty smell. Well, it ends up that I connect it through asking my guides with Art getting stuck in something. And so there was dust. And guess what? The minute he was unstuck, the dust smell went away. So there's a perfect example. It is not physically present in my environment. It's not like I've got a 3-inch coating of dust of everything around me. I don't. But I was able to smell the stuckness. So now I realize that that's part of the senses, my senses for things. So curious, right? There is clairsentience. So this is when you can feel something. So feeling through emotions or energy, you can perceive emotions or energies. You might even be able to perceive light beings. You can't necessarily see them, let's say with your eyeballs, but you can sense them. So that's feeling into something. Now, I've heard this next one pronounced a couple different ways, but I'm going to pronounce it just the way I've heard it most. Clairgustance, which is basically that you can taste, and you can taste it without it physically being present. So I imagine it kind of like the dust, where there's something you can taste, maybe it's a food or a bitterness or a sourness, even though you're not eating anything. Or there's nothing in the air that might cause that type of reaction or basically sense. And then claircognizance, which is basically that you know. So it's a knowing without needing a reason or basically a logical explanation of why you're feeling that way or why you know that thing. So it's kind of like not needing the proof, but you just know it. So these are senses that can be leveraged and tapped into by your guides. And as a quick tip, I want to connect in human design. For those of you that might already know, I have a serious nerd love for all things human design and gene keys. And for me, I've done a couple of readings for those I'm very close with, close friends, etc. And it's been so wonderful to do what I call a reading, which is kind of a comprehensive overview or look into and deep dive into different facets of ourselves. And this goes back to my earlier kind of share that we design our incarnations through our soul contracts, and we kind of decide what we're going to do and how we're going to be equipped. So what I believe, and I'll give this little twist when it comes to human design, is that this gives us a glimpse into how or what, or basically the details of our design, of how we designed ourselves, of what things we walked into this incarnation with. And how I see it is that if you have something defined, so something illuminated in your body graph, that is, or those are the things that you have as far as like natural strengths. You just kind of leverage them or do them. But it's everywhere that's open or undefined is where our wisdom, our greatest wisdom and our greatest genius lies. Because when something is open versus defined, we have receptivity. And sometimes obviously you can go to the other side of where it's like overwhelm and it's, So I'll give two centers, human design centers, that for me really helped me understand myself. So I have a open head and an open ajna, those two centers, among many others that are open. But in being open, and I'll share some wisdom from Karen Curry Parker, but she shares that basically having an open head gives you, I guess, well, causes you to be more prone to taking in inquiries and dilemmas and problems and thoughts from the world around you. So if you have it defined, which means it would be colored in, this means that you have a consistent energy for thought and sustained focus and concentration, that you basically have a consistent way of processing inspiration and thinking. So it's kind of the opposite if you are undefined or open. So for me, I can be very influenced in my thinking from divine energies because I am not more, let's say, specific in the ways that I think about things or have thoughts. This also means that, and this is not inclusive, so this doesn't mean just because you have one or the other, this is what it means. No, there can be fringe and we can all be different. This is the beautiful thing about getting to know our individual selves. But for the most part, let's say for the average, when with my head being open, this means I can be influenced by things and basically gifted with mental flexibility. So I can think in diverse ways, understanding multiple viewpoints. I can think about things and process them differently. I can also receive ideas very easily instead of having maybe kind of imagine more of a defined or closed, if you will, that is very specific and kind of goes in one direction or has, certain specific things. So this is a really beautiful thing to look at centers wise. So if you do have an open head and an open ajna, it is said that you have the ability to channel. You have the ability to basically receive divine information very easily because there's nothing specific that's blocking you. It's like you receive everything. So when we're talking about an open ajna, having it open, so I'm flexible and adaptive in my approach to thinking and processing information. So it's like receiving the information and then processing it. And I can, depending on the environment or the people that I'm with or the specific situation at hand, understand and adapt to those different, basically unique environments or elements. And seeing and understanding different perspectives is kind of part of the flow. Where those that have a defined ajna, there is kind of a, again, more structured way of conceptualizing and understanding and processing information. So the benefit here is that they can leverage and draw upon past experience and learn knowledge. And it's kind of like a reliable way of processing information and making sense of your world. So if you have a defined ajna, you have the ability to kind of make some sense around it. For myself, with it open, I'm kind of like, woo, and I feel the other thing in having any open center is that you can feel everyone else. So I feel everyone's, let's say, their definedness in either way. But I also have access to kind of be undefined and, wherever the inspiration might take me. So it's kind of interesting to see some of these tie-ins, and it might be something that you look at and see, what are my head and ajna centers looking like in my human design body graph? And that might help you also continue to open and again, flower and blossom in your own understanding in how you receive information. To be receptive, again, I'll echo what I have already shared, but what we believe we receive. So again, if we believe we can't, we won't. There's many quotes out there. I know there's a quote. What is his name? Ford, Mr. Ford, about this thing, like whatever you believe, basically, if you can or you can't, you're right. That's right, Mr. Henry Ford. So there you go. Whatever you got, it is, right? It is true. So keeping that in mind, and this empowers our receptivity. So regardless, let's say, of your open ajna or your defined ajna, or again, with your head open or defined, to be receptive is to believe. And here's the other piece of this. We are in control of what we receive, believe it or not. So this means we need to open the gate, but how we do that is that we also must give permission. So again, this goes back to that law of free will. We must, and I will say this, I think it was actually Sonia Choquette that said this and where I found it originally, but it is imperative that you actually say it, and I would say it out loud. Guides, I welcome and invite your information, your guidance, your love. I invite that in of the highest light, of, the highest divine connection, really. I mean, I invite that in. And in doing so, you give permission. And again, with the law of free will, this is essential. It cannot just be assumed. It must be intentional and intentful and disclosed. And I'd say it out loud, because then you are professing it to be true. So the power is really that we must ask. Again, it is mission critical. And the more you ask, the more you receive. I think this is something that we often forget and we need to be reminded of. So the more you ask, the more you receive. And I will say that this is so dang true. I recently, and I'm going to share more about it, kind of more in detail. I did disclose it already, but on my Substack, in talking about me, I had developed, in my lovely technical nerdiness, an AI prompt that leverages my tarot deck, that I pull cards, and I have kind of a meditative practice that I do every single day. And I write out questions, I pull cards, basically against those questions. And then I wrote an AI prompt to have AI help me interpret them, and also to help teach me along the way, so that I can be empowered and understand what the cards mean, and, collectively, et cetera, et cetera. And I will say this, that the more I ask, the more I receive. My entire life, and I can declare this right now, with every fiber of my being, that I am literally living a life experience that is divinely guided. And what I'm meaning is that there's this perfect co-creation energy where I am making the ultimate decisions, because they are ours to make. Our guides can guide us, but we have to make the final call. And we should, because it's our life experience. But we can receive the guidance, receive direction, receive input, and also receive things that we might not be able to do ourselves, that divinely can kind of step in and help us. But if it were not for this practice, I would not be living this exact life. I would not be recording this episode. I'll be that blunt. This Beyond the Belief podcast would not even exist. This is how powerful this is. The more we ask, the more we receive. So please know that there's so much power in your voice, in what you ask for. And you don't necessarily have to say it out loud, but I will say you do have a voice coming from your heart center, from your love and light energy. And I know this to be true. So your voice, and that's what I'm meaning, your unique signature voice, you must declare it. And it's beautiful, right? And again, whether you're doing it in meditation or journaling or inquiry practice, whatever it may be, continue to ask for help. Continue to ask for guidance. Continue to ask for things to be illuminated for you or validated. I know Julia Cannon, who is Dolores Cannon's daughter, said specifically on one of the lectures I was watching of Dolores, that she kind of did a little playful game with her guides, that she would ask a question, she would receive an intuitive tap. So something that was like, okay, I need to do, X, Y, let's just say, right? Is it red or blue? And they're like, it's red. It's like, okay, it's red. I invite in to have this confirmed 3 times for me within the next 24 hours. And she figured this out because she kept writing down when she'd receive the intuitive taps again of, let's say in this case, red, that she kept seeing red or kept hearing red or kept, feeling into red. And she noticed that she would get literally 3 confirmations within 24 hours. And so she started declaring this openly. Okay, I've received red. If red is it, then, allow it to be in my existence. Allow me to perceive it or see it or feel it or what have you. And so this is part of her practice. She knows that everything that is supposed to happen will be confirmed. So there's little things you can do, like you can play a game. It's okay. Life is supposed to be about playing. And this is the lesson, if you will, or the thing that I'm remembering, that life is about play and joy and fun. And it's not so serious. And I've lived a life experience of so much seriousness. So it's beautiful to be supported in this way, to know that that does not have to be the case. It doesn't have to be so serious. So ask, 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 ask. The other piece of this that's critical, and you will hear this in the message from the Love Oracle message here at the end of this episode, but you must develop a deeper relationship with yourself. Now, I don't want to, spoiler alert, I don't want to like go through and say all what they're going to say, because you'll be able to hear it. But what I want to touch on is that what they talked about is that basically our love capacity, or our capacity for a relationship with others, is a direct mirror of our relationship with ourselves. So basically all relationships come through that mirror, or as they described, a doorway. So they described two doorways, a 10 by 10 and a 3 by 3, which I know is square, but that's okay. We're making doors. We're making doorways of our own size. But thinking about it relationally, you've got 10 by 10 or you've got 3 by 3. Those are two different sizes. So if you have a relationship with yourself in a 10 by 10 capacity, it's large, it's expansive, you've done studying, or you've done learning or listening or exploring of yourself, then you've got this beautiful 10 by 10 that you can then leverage. And this is why I think it's so important that we develop that relationship, because again, as comparing it to a 3 by 3, that means that the capacity for love or capacity for connection cannot be bigger than or grander than 3 by 3. And this is why we must love ourselves first. And I love how the Love Oracle also says and jokes that I say this often, and it's true, that if we're talking about loving ourselves and the truly, like, in so many ways, this example, we've all heard about the airplane mask example, that you're supposed to mask yourself before you mask someone else. And it's critical. It's proven. But if we leverage this in this way, it's critical that we have a relationship with ourselves. So being in stillness, listening, connecting. I'll never forget, honestly, the first time I meditated, it was back in 2015. And I about jumped out of my dang skin. I'm not even kidding you. I was so anxious. I got 4 seconds in and I was like, oh my gosh, I have so many things to do. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? And like was just having basically a panic attack. And that was my first reality check of like, holy cow, I am not present. Like, I am not present in any capacity. And I needed that. It wasn't necessarily a wake up call, but it was like, wow, just like, what? So I think it's imperative that if we do not have this connection with ourselves, we cannot have connections with others. So make this a practice of love and something. I mean, you deserve the world. You are wonderful. You bring so much to so many beings. I know this. I can feel this through the podcast streaming app or microphone or what have you. Like, I can feel it. Know that if you're listening to this message, this message is for you. There is a reason you are listening to this. Embrace this. Open your heart. Your guides want to speak with you even more deeply, even if you have an existing relationship. But it all starts with you. So what can you do for you to get to know you and love you better? Now, what I'll say in kind of rounding the corner, the medium that most resonates with you is what is most important. I think this is where often there is I don't want to say mistakes. We just kind of overlook this, that it can't be that simple, or really it's just about listening and that's it. Or like, but I don't hear anything. Okay. All of that talk, that is left brain. That is, Dolores Cannon gave it a really cute little nickname called Mr. Stupid. And I don't know if I like that very much. I would say Mr. Analytical or Ms. Analytical. But that is your left brain. And it is trying to protect you in the best way that it knows how. But that is not us. That is a part of us. That is an important part of us. And there's many ways to define this. Some call it personality, some call it facets, others call it ego. But it is here for a reason. But if you're hearing these, just basically the yammer, the talk, like, well, the disbelief, what, it can't be this serious. It can't be that small. It can't be that simple. It can, my dear being, fellow gorgeous being, it can be this simple. Allow yourself. Just take a deep breath, allow yourself. So there's that, right? But think about it this way. What resonates most with you? Is it listening? So for example, I'll give myself as an example. I am very clairaudient. I set up a little shortcut on my phone, on my iPhone, that I can click a button. This is a nerd in me. It automatically creates an Apple Note with a timestamp on it and a date stamp. So I know exactly when I had the come to me, right? thought. But I click it and I write down the intuitive tap, whatever it is. It's a thought. Oh, maybe I can do this. Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, I didn't even think about that. And I'm constantly just tap, 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 right? Adding. And then at some point, I'm able to go back and read through them and see if there's connections. So this is through my listening, my clairaudience. And I will say this just as a general, PSA. I will have a specific episode here on Beyond the Belief for this because I think it's so important. Write everything down. Everything you receive, write it down. Put it in your phone, put it in a cute little notebook, put it on a sticky note, and then you got a sticky note collection like you've never seen. Whatever it is that floats your boat, write it down. Because when we write things down and we get them out of our minds, we can look at them and observe them and receive them with our hearts. And especially if we're making this shift for the first time or first time in a long time, or maybe your left brain is very loud. This is a wonderful way to help understand it better and mitigate the, cutting off of connection that it can do in its magic. So write everything down and then see what illustrates. Literally just stand back and look at it. And you're like, curious. You never know what you may find. Okay. Is it writing? Automatic writing works beautifully. That's where I started, literally, in kind of more receiving all of that information, more than just the intuitive, let's say, taps. Get into the mood, meditate, have quiet time, relaxation, listen to some gorgeous sound bath, music. There's a playlist that Apple makes that I have on Apple Music that's great. I just turn it on and it kind of gets me in that flow. Whatever it is, and I'll say this from my experience because every person is different. Every being is different. So you're going to hear it in a different way. For me, what I suddenly hear is, hello, Lavender. So I'm just sitting there and then it's like, hello, Lavender. I'm like, hello. So it might be that obvious. They might be saying hi to you. Or suddenly you just start receiving thoughts that you're not necessarily thinking. And you're like, where the heck is this coming from? Just start writing. See what happens. Others have to, kind of start, get the juices flowing, just writing out whatever comes to them. And somehow that starts the motor. And the minute you start the motor, I'll say this applies to QHHT sessions too. If you get the motor started and you pay attention to the first thing that you think or the first thing that comes to mind, again, writing it down, and you just keep going, you don't overthink it, you don't sit there and analyze it, because then here goes Mr. Ms. Analytical. We don't go there. We just continue. It will end up quieting down. And you will connect more deeply to that right side of the brain, which is the all-knowing part, which is the divine part. So know that writing might be a great place. Or is it feeling or knowing? Especially when we're talking about human design. I personally, I am a peer generator, so I do have a defined sacral, but I also have a defined spleen. So I am constantly having a deep knowing of intuitive, feelings, which are also AKA known as gut feelings. I got a lot of them. And the key here is to understand yourself. What, if we're looking at human design, what is your authority? What should you be listening to? And then how can you tune yourself to that authority? It is amazing. If we realize how we work and then we work with it instead of against it, we open doors, y'all. Open serious doors. We go from that 3x3 door to a 10x10 door instantly. It's so critical. So pay attention to those things. What are you receiving? And the most important part is belief, is trusting them. Here's what I always say for someone who's like, I don't know about this. Do this. Trust them. Try it for 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks. Trust your gut feelings. See what happens. Write them down. Put them somewhere so you can see it. Revisit them later after you've forgotten about them. That's the beautiful part. Because if you forget about them, that's your conscious mind. Then suddenly you revisit and you're like, oh my gosh, I received this 2 weeks ago? That's so funny because I was thinking about this morning again. Now we're starting to see patterns. And if there's one thing that I have learned, that your guides don't stop. And this is a perfect segue to kind of our last little segment here. What if they can't get through? So if they're trying to, let's say, drop things into your mind, they're trying to tap on your spleen, giving you those intuitive pulls. You're like, oh, I feel like this. And then you're like, I'm crazy. What am I thinking? This is nonsense. And they're like, no. I can imagine them just being so sad, but like, okay, we'll try another way. We'll try another way. I have learned, and this is through QHHT as well, but also through the work of Julia Cannon, Dolores' daughter, about the power of our bodies. And I will say this out loud, and this is something between the two of them, between Dolores and Julia, that they studied deeply. And it's all about patterns. It's like, oh, I've seen this 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. It's like, okay, there's some truth here. Because where the heck did this come from? So here's something that I want you to think about and ingest. That the last resort, if our guides cannot get through to us, they start to communicate through our body, our beautiful bodies. And it's kind of the last resort. And what often comes first is pain. So if you are experiencing pain in your body, and there are specific locations, whether it's your left side or your right side, and then specific domains. So I will give an example here in 2 seconds, but aches, pains, and then as it continues to progress, so if you still are not paying attention, and I'll say this right now, that the ache and the pain, the exact location, it's on your left side in your knee, let's say. Your left side typically has to do with earlier in your current lifetime or a past lifetime. Your right side has to do with your current life, like current time. So if you have a pain in your knee, it could be from earlier in this life experience or again, your past. And your knee has to deal with not stepping into the desired direction you have for your life or resisting moving in that desired direction. So this could have come from a past lifetime that you're holding on to. Maybe it's triggering in this lifetime. But think about and I'm thinking about people, and this has happened in QHHT, where they have two knees, both knees are gone, like no cartilage, have a hard time walking. This is often reflecting someone who has significant resistance, or they are resisting moving in a desired direction in their life. They want to do something, but they just won't do it. So imagine trying to stop, trying to push back with your legs, like, no, I don't want to walk. So what Julia figured out kind of through mapping all this information from Dolores' sessions as well as her own research, and she was a nurse for over 20 years. So understanding the body and systems, it's very, I don't want to say rudimentary, but it's very basic, it's very simple, and it's very straightforward. So it's not ultra complex and you have to learn all these things. No, it's very straightforward. So if you want to pick up Julia's book, it's called Soul Speak, and it is amazing. It's a really brief, short little read, but it opens your eyes to how our bodies communicate with us. And this is our guides, y'all. This is our guides. So it starts with aches and pains. If we still don't pay attention, it turns into illness and disease. So if we are in serious stages of illness and disease, it's likely that we're still not paying attention. And now it's kind of like the last ditch effort. If you've ever heard of like someone having cancer and then suddenly they're able to clear it and they live a happy life. Okay, so what Dolores would say, or Julia would say, that these miraculous cures means you suddenly start listening. You suddenly receive the message. And this is why Dolores had such success in her QHHT practice with the SC, so which she affectionately called also the subconscious, but people also refer to this as the superconscious, the oversoul, the all-knowing that is within each of us. So listening to an individual's SC and connecting with them to basically heal the body, they actually will share why that pain or that symptom or that illness or that disease developed. They weren't listening. They weren't paying attention. They weren't taking action. They weren't doing what they should be doing for their incarnation, for their, again, for their soul contract. Isn't this interesting? Every time I talk about this, I'm like, what? So literally, how long someone has been dealing with something is basically how stubborn this person has been in not paying attention that things were appearing in the body. So first they weren't listening just via the signs, those senses. So whether it was seeing it or hearing it or what have you, and then it turned into pain, aches first, then pain, then illness, then disease. So it's been a long time. But I will say this out loud here. This is the miraculous thing about QHHT, is that if you know what it is and you discover it, your body knows how to heal itself. So it suddenly can turn around. And there are miraculous, instantaneous healings that happen in sessions. It's beautiful. I am the recipient of this. I will say this right now, of multiple healings of things that I have dealt with my entire life or in my recent life experience that have now been cleared. It's unreal. It's like, this can't be what? But again, what you believe, you receive. So I believe it. And guess what? I can see it. I experience it. I am experiencing it in my 3D existence right now, right here with you. But this is why miraculous healings can happen. Because the moment we understand it, it then can go away because its mission in existence, so cancer is one of them, among many. I mean, imagine any condition is tied back to a message. And the moment that you receive the message and make the changes, it doesn't have to exist anymore. Because the reason it's existing is because we're resisting. Ooh, how do you like that? It exists because we resist. There you go. Isn't that wild though? And then the minute that we basically receive it, then it doesn't have to exist anymore. So it goes away. Our bodies are miraculous, y'all. They are miraculous. And this is why I wanted to talk about this on this specific podcast, beyond the belief. Because of course, if you're sitting here for the first time hearing this, you're like, what? What is Lavender talking about? But the reason I'm sharing this is because this might be beyond your current belief system. But I've learned about the power of our belief systems. When we believe, I've said it a couple times in this episode alone, when we believe, we receive. So your beliefs are tied to what you experience in your current life. I'm getting the tone back in my left ear here. So I know this to be true, but think about it from this perspective. If you, kind of to wrap this up with a nice little bow before I play this incredible message from the Love Oracle, it is incredibly important that you think about your thoughts, think about what you believe, think about what you are inviting into your experience, because you are in control of it. If you're experiencing body symptoms, there's an exceptional chance that there is some message that you're not hearing and not wanting to receive, or not taking action to, or for it, or what have you. And allow this to be an invitation for you to open that door. And candidly, this is why, there's two reasons why I became a QHHT practitioner. And the reason that you're going to hear this lovely recording of me verbally channeling the Love Oracle is because of QHHT and what it's opened for me. But through my daily tarot practice with my guides, so asking questions, inquiring, wanting to know more, this appeases me so beautifully because I have a very active left brain and a very active right brain. So the whole activity, it just is, it's just so satiating. I love it. But it's also very connective. I get to learn and listen from my guides. I get to see things and understand things. But as I mentioned at the top of this episode, I wouldn't even be here with this episode sharing this information if it wasn't for this practice and connection with my guides. And my guides are the ones who also are directing me through my daily actions, advising me on what options I have and what the outcomes could be of choosing, whatever it may be. But think about this. I had a couple of recent actually QHHT sessions myself. So in basically getting the practicum, right, experience, I work with other practitioners and we basically host sessions for each other. It's a beautiful way to meet each other, talk to each other, but also to better understand ourselves. And through these sessions, I learned that in my past incarnation, my most recent, and then for quote eons, I have been an oracle. Oh, you've been saying it. I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I learned that I could channel in October of 2024, as I mentioned towards the top of this episode. And I have basically connected more and more deeply, again, through practice, but also QHHT has opened the doors for me to understand what I'm doing here, what my purpose is, and what I chose and designed basically for my life experience, literally my life journey. And I get to be here to share it with y'all, which is just like beyond me. Oof. But to know that I designed it myself this way to bring wisdom and inspiration, love and light to this gorgeous earth. And to you, my dearest listeners, is humbling. And so through my recent QHHT sessions, I learned that I am supposed to verbally channel. That is part of my destiny here. And I've begun that practice, and it will continue to be a practice because it definitely feels very interesting. But my goodness, the things that come through are so beautiful. So to sum it all up, this is what I present to you now. This gorgeous message of love and connection. And this is the debut, y'all. It's so exciting. And I will have more messages that I will share. But this was just such a beautiful parallel that I channeled this and I had intended to record this episode. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can, marry them together, checking in with my guides. What do we think? It's like strong. Yes. Like, okay, here we go. But it's such a wonderful reminder of who we really are. So as you listen to this message, think about inviting in who you really are. Allow your guides to speak to you through your beautiful heart. And allow you to receive this gorgeous message and gorgeous light and love. And what I have learned through QHHT is that when we connect with basically our guides, our SC, our divine entities, right, that are supporting us, there is a certain vibration and tone to the voice. So this is why the verbal channel is really important. As you listen to it, it will be healing. Of course, you need to allow it. Of course, you need to invite it in and believe that you will receive healing, and you will. But this is why in a verbal form, it's so powerful. So without further ado, y'all, I present to you this gorgeous message. There's many more, but I cannot thank you enough for being here with me and enjoying this episode. I'm just so humbled and grateful for you to be here with me. But I hope that this was opening, and I hope that there is a way forward for you to embrace more of everything that you are. Sending you so much love and light. Namaste. There's a profound need for beings to connect directly with their guide teams. Those guides, as we've shared, are defined as anyone appointed to assist or help across on the other side or the other side of the veil. They could be past relatives that have moved to the other side, or they could be angels or other light beings who are there to support the individual being. Understanding the connection between the being and their guides is mission critical. Mission critical. This is because the guidance that you asked for before you incarnated into this body, into this existence here on earth, is only accessible through your connection with your guides. Your guides can assist you, guide you, share with you, help illuminate for you, as well as illustrate or unpack the options that are in front of you. They will advise you based on all of the information they know about your deepest desires in this incarnation, the goals that you set forth in your contract, and they will help assist as much as they absolutely can. We are all operating on the law of free will. That is a fundamental law in any being who incarnates into Earth, because the law of free will is the law that stands. What this means is that we as guides cannot come to you and start speaking to you or with you and requiring your attention or getting involved in your business unless it is an emergency or a situation where intervention is required. We are not allowed. We must obey the law of free will. What this means for you as a being is that you must request, you must ask, you must inquire. If you do not, we cannot do anything. We might be energetically amplified because of the concern for you in not sharing this information, but you must ask. You must open the door, even if it seems obvious. Asking for help is required. So if you need help, and this can be in anything in your life experience, there are no guidelines or rules of what is in boundary versus out of boundary. It is all applicable. All you must do is ask and believe in your heart that asking for the guidance, for the direction, for the clarity is what you are deeply seeking. That connection of intention and the direction and action of your guides means that you will get the biggest, largest, most fruitful connection, answers, clarity, horizon, and snapshot of what you are seeking or needing at any one given time. Again, there are no boundaries. There are no rules in what can be asked for. This is all based on your vibrational level and the awareness of your spiritual ascension. So there is a little bit of homework, if you will, to ensure that the connection between yourself and your guides is the healthiest, is the most connected, is the most vibrant. But outside of that, there are no rules in what you can ask for. What you receive is what you believe. Those are directly tied together. This means that whatever you believe in your heart, hold true in your heart, will be what manifests into your reality, into the existence with you. It is essential that you take a few moments to attempt to connect with yourself first. The connection to others can only be strengthened through the connection you have with yourself. There is no other way. Many beings believe that they must work on the relationships externally with the beings of their choice. While this is true, this doorway is only as open as you and your doorway with yourself. So if your doorway is very large, let's say 10 by 10 open, then the possibilities for any other relationship in your existence can only flow through this 10 by 10 doorway. If you happen to have a 3 by 3 doorway with yourself, this means all relationships in your existence must flow through this 3 by 3 doorway. This aligns with the law of free will, that the direct correlation of connection that you have with yourself is then mirrored to every other being you interact with. This is why it is important, it is critical for you to develop a relationship with yourself, but to love yourself, because only through loving yourself can you love any other. We find it funny in some ways, the airplane example that is very frequently shared by Lavender, that you must put the airplane mask on yourself before you can mask someone else. This mirrors the law of free will and the foundational pathways for all connection. If you do not love yourself, if you do not know yourself, you cannot love or know, deeply, truly know anyone else, any other being. And this translates to all those who have incarnated with you in your existence, or it could be any spiritual or light being behind the veil. So if you can, allow this to be an introduction. Allow this to be an invitation to take inventory of your current relationship with yourself. How can you get to know yourself better? How can you inquire and discover and uncover the deeper relationship or deeper connection that you may have with yourself? It may sound silly. It may sound unnecessary, but we must reiterate, it is imperative that you take a moment to understand your relationship with yourself and at least identify options or pathways into deeper communion with yourself. This means understanding your deepest desires and motivations. This means understanding your wishes, your deepest, often lightest or darkest, it does not matter. Whatever is deepest within your soul, within your heart, within your mind, is what needs to be brought into the light for you to uncover and discover. We often recommend to go back into the consciousness that resides for you, the I am. Go deeply backwards into that consciousness, often referred to as an ocean of consciousness, a vast body of water that ebbs and flows and contains the water of life. Allow it to wash you, all parts of you internally, and deeply connect to the calm and the flow of the life water. As you continue to flow with the life water, cleanse yourself with the life water. You will start to illuminate the things that you most love about yourself, as well as the items or areas or facets that might need some additional love. Remember that love is the greatest force in the universe. There is no higher, there is no greater
There is no grander force than love. And love radiates and maintains inside of your heart energy, your heart chakra, your heart center. This is why it is said to open your heart, because as you open your heart, you open it for all things to be experienced through it. Your heart center opens everything in your experience, and it only can open through love. You are a divine being. You are a light being. You are powerful. You are wonderful. Repeat these things to yourself, because these things allow your heart center to begin to open, to expand, to receive the energy of light, and through the light comes love. Love is light. There is no higher. There is no more ascended, more powerful, more connective, more intense force in all of the universe. And it resides within you. You host it within your body, within your heart center. Your energetic force of connection, of expansion, of love. This is why it is said that you are a being of love, because there is light within you. Even if you have recently had challenges or have navigated some, shall we say, darker paths, that is okay. Every moment you can choose, in every single moment of now. It is never permanent. You can always choose. So now we invite you to choose light, to choose love, to choose expansion, because it resides right there in your heart center. There is no effort. There is no gathering. There is no activities needed to cultivate or collect or ignite the light within you. It is there. It might be a smaller flame, or it might be a fully engulfed, engrossed, expansive flame. But it resides within you. Highest One, listen to your heart. Invest and pour into your heart. Listen and cultivate from your heart, and your whole world will expand. And through your heart center, your guides can begin to speak to it and through it directly to you. Remember, you incarnated at this time by choice. It was your choice to be here. If that sounds disturbing, if that sounds perplexing, allow this to be an opportunity to seek to understand. There is more here than you have seen or experienced or discovered or felt into. Allow this to be an opportunity to expand. Remember, only through expansion will life and your world change. Expansion is always necessary. Where does it stop? It does not stop. It continues. It is ever expanding, ever increasing, often referred to as infinity. Continue to open, and continue to expand your life experience. We are so grateful to be here with you. You are not alone, and you are so very loved. Namaste, dear ones.